Hey, what's up, Life Without Panty with another Path of Exile video, and in today's video we're going to talk about Delirium, and this is an endgame mechanic that you can find on the Atlas of Worlds, and it has this little icon here. As you can see, there's this little sort of horns, I believe, and I think they're from the God of Mischief in the Path of Exile world, so I think kind of a Loki. And there's two ways to get Delirium in your maps. I've just got a map here that we're going to run, and we'll look at the first one straight away. So the first one is called a Delirium Mirror, and this means that there's a little, it's a sort of fractured but whole kind of mirror thing here. Let's just kill these people hanging around and trying to interrupt our video. So you can see here there's this mirror that, as you walk around it, it's got this cool fractured effect on it, but it turns with you, and as soon as you go in, you're going to get this big amount of sort of grey fog rolling over your map, and then you're going to get a little rewards counter down at the bottom. Now the rewards counter fills up the more monsters you kill whilst you're in the map, so we'll just start that off, and you can see here I got my rewards counter. Oh, and immediately some monsters spawn as well. And Delirium adds monsters to your map, so it's a really good idea to have Delirium wherever you can, because more monsters just means more loot. If you have 30% increased amount of monsters or more monsters in your map, then you're going to get 30% more loot from them. So as you can see, we killed a few things and this little counter's gone up. Now these are for Distilled emotions. This is the rewards you get in Delirium maps. We'll talk a little bit more about those later, but you'll also find these other, this is like a little mirror shard here. You can see this sort of rotating around, and when you walk into these, then there's some eyeballs here as well. That's delightful. So there's some eyeballs and some Delirium Mirrors, and it just churns out some extra monsters. So you can walk through all of these little mirrors in your map. You'll find quite a few of them as you wander around Delirium maps, and it will unleash a bunch more monsters. So again, more loot. Now the way the fog, because this is called Delirium Fog, that is this grey stuff on our map here. The way this works is kind of like a donut. So when you start, maybe I should clear the screen a little bit before I start explaining this, but when you start the map, you go in the central point of the fractured but whole mirror, the Delirium Mirror, and then it spreads a fog out like that, like a donut. And then after a while, the fog in the middle starts to sort of dissipate. So then this donut sort of expands. So you want to, stay in the fog, because as soon as the fog goes, as soon as you're not in the fog, there'll be a little timer up at the top. We'll see that in a while. But as soon as the fog dissipates around you, then the rewards will drop and the Delirium will end. So you want to keep it around for as long as possible, because then you will get more stuff. And the longer you spend in Delirium, the more monsters you will find, delirious monsters, I think they're called, and the more rewards you will get from them. So staying in the Delirium is quite important, in the fog that is, and getting as much rewards as possible. So this number 3, this refers to the number of distilled emotions that will drop when the fog ends. And the types that you get are random. I'm assuming they're weighted in some particular, the cheaper ones are found less often than the more expensive ones, and those have different uses as well. So we'll talk about what to do with your emotions. That's a heavy topic, but we'll talk about what to do with your emotions in a little bit. But for now, I'm just gonna kill some monsters and wait till the Delirium timer starts to appear at the top of my screen. So it's going to appear just around here, and I'm going to fast forward until we see that. Okay, so here I am at the edge of the fog, and if you see here, I wander through it, and over here there is fog, and over here there's not so much fog, and as soon as I go into the not so much fog, there's a timer that starts, and that means I've got 2 seconds to get back into the fog. So I'm going to return into the fog and start killing some more monsters, and you can see the reward counter still ticking up. Now, Delirium has a couple of bugs at the moment. There's, it can bug out. I've had Delirium fog that just never dissipates, which is great because you just keep killing monsters and you keep getting rewards. The reward counter keeps going up, and when that happens, that's great. But sometimes the reward counter bugs and just stays at 0 the whole time, and that sucks. You still get all the monsters in the map, so you get all the extra loot from them, which is nice. And it would be obviously better if the rewards didn't bug out. The only thing that you miss out on is a few distilled emotions when this happens. But now I'm going to move back towards, I think the edge of the fog should be somewhere around here. And you can also end the fog early as well. So because as you get more delirious, or as you are deeper into the fog, the further, I think it's the further away from the origin point, the fractured butthole mirror, the further you away from that, then the more difficult the delirium becomes. And what does difficult mean? It's the monsters get a sort of generic damage reduction. So if you're doing 100 damage, then maybe they just get 20 damage reduction, or 20% damage reduction. So you do 100 damage and then you take 80 instead. So I've killed all the rare monsters in the map here. You can get rare monsters from Delirium as well. They don't count towards the rare monsters for map completion. But again, it's very, very useful to get a bunch of extra rare monsters because lots more loot. You can get a lot of Exalts or Chaos Orbs from them. Divines if you're very, very lucky, or if you're stacking Magic Fine perhaps. But I'm going to move towards... So here we've got a rare monster from Delirium. This is... hopefully it's not going to kill me. But these things can get pretty rippy because they do increase damage as well. He didn't. Oh, he dropped an augmentation. That's a shame. You can if you want, you can end it a little early. So I'm going to end it early just for demonstration. So there's a little button down here. It's the fast forward button, and you can select to end the Delirium encounter. We got 5 rewards, which is a lot. It's really good for us. So I'm just going to end it. The fog goes away, and then we get all these distilled emotions drop. We also get a stack of Simulacrum splinters. Now we'll talk more about those later. So I'm just going to finish up this map, and then we'll talk about these distilled greed, distilled ire, these distilled emotions, and let's jump to the next bit. Right, it's the most difficult part of the video, and it's time to talk about our emotions. And these are the emotions, some of them that we got from the last map. And if I just come over to this map device here, I've got this Sandspit map here that has no ostensible modifiers on it from the towers or anything. So if we just go into this map now, you'll see it's all perfectly normal. And there's very, very few modifiers affecting this. We got a little bit of quant and rarity from our tree, and then we've got some pack size. This is also from the tree as well. And then we've got some explosive radius and explosive placement radius, and that's from our expedition tree. So the emotions that we found, we can right-click these. Oh, I got a map in here already. So we can right-click this, and we can add in a layer of delirium. So just constant delirium to a map. So if we put in, say, this ire, this is the most common one I found. 20% increased magic monsters, and players in area are 7% delirious. Now, what does delirious mean? We'll get to that in a minute, but you can add these, and in any combination that you want, to maps, and it will add in layers of delirium. So you can get, they do different things as well. So this greed, this goes 8% increased rarity of items found in area. Players are 10% delirious. Now, you can play around with all of these. I'm not sure that the PoE2 wiki is updated yet. I'll put a link to that in the description below for Delirium. But this is what the Delirium tab looks like if you have bought this, or if you had it in Path of Exile 1, then you get it in Path of Exile 2. So the top row, these are all very common, I would say. They're very, very... You'll find these a lot when you're doing Delirium encounters, and the bottom row less so. So these mostly go for around 1 Exalt, something like that. I think that Envy might be a little bit more expensive. Yeah, maybe 2 Exalts. But then these ones, I've been selling some of these for around 50 Exalts each. Some of these can go for quite a lot. I think Disgust is not that expensive. It's 5 Exalts, but you can get a lot of these, and you can also 3-to-1 these as well. And 3-to-1ing in Path of Exile. In Path of Exile 1, You can 3-to-1 a lot of things, and you can just do it at a vendor. And Path of Exile 2, we have to do it slowly in the Reforging Bench. So this is a Reforging Bench is actually a hideout decoration that you can put in your hideout. You can do that by just clicking this edit button and then going to the decorations thing, and then looking for the keyword search down here, and you can search for refo, and then you can place this object in your hideout. Now, that's how you get the Reforging Bench. Let's stop editing so all these names disappear. But you can go to the Reforging Bench and put 3 of these. This is the base level one, the Ire. Put 3 of these in and you will get 1 gilt out of that. And then if you put, I think, 3 gilts in, then you should get one of these greeds here, and it goes, you know, up and up and up. So it becomes very costly very quickly if you want the very top tier emotions, but these ones are very, very useful all the same. So we can right click on this, put our map in, and then we can add these emotions onto it. And this puts layers of Delirium on the map. So the layer of Delirium, we'll just put 1 on here. We'll just take a tier 1 map with 1 emotion on. This is a very base level of thing you could do with these emotions. And you'll see when we get into the map that the Delirium effect is there. So there is Delirium all around. So you can see this Delirium fog is here. As we wander around, there's going to be the mirrors that have all the beasties dropping out of them. And it looks exactly like any kind of Delirium encounter you would normally be doing, with the exception that there is no rewards counter. So there's no rewards for this, other than it adds lots of monsters to your maps. So there's no rewards, and also there's no end fog button, because the rewards you only get when the fog ends, and if the fog never ends, there's no rewards. So there's no rewards here. You do drop Simulacrum splinters though, and you are counted as being delirious. Now, what the heck does delirious mean? Well, for this we're going to look at the Path of Exile 1 wiki. Now this is not the same as for Path of Exile 2, but it gives us a good idea of what deliriousness means. So the more deliriousness you have applied to you as a player, or how delirious you are, that means that there's going to be a damage bonus for the monsters against you, and the monsters are going to take less damage too. So there's a scale here. This is for Path of Exile 1, don't forget. We don't know how exactly it works for Path of Exile 2 yet. There's going to be a lot of testing for that. But I think in our map we were at a very, very low level of deliriousness, so we just put 1 of these in, 7%. So if you put 3 of these in, you get to 21%. And in Path of Exile 1, 20% deliriousness means 6% increased damage against you, and then 16% less damage taken by uniques, and almost 20% for normal monsters, and 20% less for magic. And this goes up and up and up. So at 80% deliriousness, you're taking 24% increased damage. You're doing 64% less damage against unique monsters, and 77. And then when it gets to 100%, you're doing 96% less damage against normal monsters, which is a lot of damage reduction for monsters. And why would you bother doing this? Because there's a rarity and quantity bonus. And this is in Path of Exile 1. Now, Path of Exile 1, they just had quantity basically removed from the game, so I'm not sure that the quantity still is calculated this way. But for monster item rarity, this is very much still a thing in Path of Exile 1. And it seems like the more delirious you are in your map, the more rarity you get. It's not going to be 20 to 100%. It's just going to be it's going to be different. But this is what the layers of, or the deliriousness does to you. So adding a lot more of the emotions to your maps. If you're going to do a bunch of maps, then I would recommend adding some layers of delirium. If you have delirium on the map, then that means you can't use that map in a node that has a delirium mirror on it. So that's also useful to know. But all of these things, they also do very different things. So you can put 24% increased rarity of items found in this area by having these distilled greed emotions on. There's lots of really, really good combinations, and I would encourage you to go and check them out. Now, that's what deliriousness and delirium does for maps. Now let's talk about amulets. Okay, so again, our emotions, they have multiple uses, and one of them is for the passive skill tree. Now, you can have all of these notables assigned for your character. There's 3 different types of node, 4 if you count dual sockets, but 3 different types of nodes on the passive skill tree. There's these ones, which are these small nodes. These are called small nodes. There's these medium-sized ones, which are called notables. And then there's these ones which are called keystones, and the keystones usually come with a downside, and the notables are generally just all upside. Obviously these small ones are also all upside as well, but the notable ones usually have a much better upside than the small ones. So stacking a lot of notables, very useful. And if we go over to, say, preservation here, 25% increase skill effect duration, this is something that my character needs. And I can hold down the Alt key on Windows, and it will tell me Distilled Emotions, Disgust, Suffering, and Ire. And that means that if I get a Disgust, Suffering, and Ire emotion, I think I've got Disgust here. I'm not sure if I've got Suffering. No, I do not. But if I had that, then I would be able to add this keystone, this preservation keystone, to an amulet. And that means I then don't have to take it on the tree. So if I was to add this, then I could probably unallocate these 2 nodes as well. I save 3 points on the tree, which can be quite a lot. Say this one, for example, Pure Power. This is Suffering, Guilt, and Suffering. This is probably going to be quite expensive. But then I maybe don't need to take all these nodes going up to this, and you get a bunch of extra passives to play around with on your tree. This also means that you can get something from way over the other side of the tree. So if you're attribute stacking, then polymathy, which is 10% increased attributes, could be very, very, very useful to you. So this is a way to find out which to add any kind of notable on the tree to your amulet. As you see over here on my amulet, I've got Icebreaker, which is gain 100% of maximum energy shield as an additional freeze threshold. And if we look on the tree, I think it's over here somewhere. If we do, oh, is it this one? It is not that one. Okay, so if I do Icebreaker and I spell it correctly, then this is one of the things that's very, very frustrating about Path of Exile. It's very difficult to see these notables when you highlight them, but it's right here. And you can see it actually, if I take this off, it actually looks like it's allocated, and that's because it is. It's on my character. So this means I don't have to spend all these points coming all the way over here on the tree to go and get this. I can get it on my amulet instead. And I got an example here. We can just take, I've just got this regular lapis amulet that I picked up from the floor, and I can right click on any of these emotions and I can put this into the instilling area here, and then I can just chuck in these things. Now obviously if you're just randomly throwing things in like I am, it's not always going to result in something that's actually instillable. But here we've got plus 30 to accuracy rating and 10% increased accuracy rating. Not great for me as a spell build, but if you're a bow build, then this is probably really, really useful to you. So this is how you add a notable to an amulet. You can obviously just go and buy these emotions from Alva. So you can just say, I want ire, and then you can find distilled ire, or you could just search for distilled, and then you'll find out, you know, how much exactly that these things cost. So if you've got exalted orbs, then you'll see, oh wow, a distilled suffering is 136 exalts. That's quite expensive. So the really, really good notables on the Atlas passive tree are going to cost a lot more than most of the, you know, the less good ones, like this days build-up and days duration. Probably not that good. Ire, guilt, paranoia. That's actually something we could put on. I think we've got ire, yeah. So we could do ire, guilt, and paranoia and put this amulet in, and we see back in action. Oh, is it the wrong order? Perhaps it's the wrong order. Ire, guilt, and paranoia. So ire, guilt, and oh, that's greed. Do I have paranoia? I don't think I have paranoia. Well, anyway. So this is how you add all of these notables to your amulets, and you can only have one, and if you put another one on, then it's going to overwrite the previous one. So this is the second use for our emotions. Let's talk about the passive tree. And just before we talk about the Atlas passives, I should also mention that there's obviously another way to get Delirium on your maps, and that's by using this Precursor Tablets that you will find when you do Delirium. So if you do Delirious maps, and you're going to find these Delirium Precursor Tablets, they work the same way as all the other Precursor Tablets. So they come just normal, and I'm not sure if I've got any normal ones, but with all Precursor Tablets, you can use transmutes and orgs on them. So I can't use these because I've already got them on, but this is just a way to add Delirium to a bunch of maps. This will add a mirror of Delirium, not anything else. So this is just a really great way to add Delirium to a bunch of your maps when you use your towers. Alright, let's talk about the Atlas passives. Now, I don't have any allocated here, I don't have any rewarded. I've been doing them with a friend of mine. I've been helping him out in the Simulacrum. The way you get these points is by completing the Simulacrum, and the Simulacrum, we can see it here. So, well, I don't have one, but Simulacrum splinters, you need 300 of these, and you make one Simulacrum, and as soon as you get that, then you can use the Realm Gate on your Atlas. So if you look around your Atlas, you'll have, I think I see it just here, there's this, this is the burning monolith, but I think around here, yeah, here's my Realm Gate, and you would put your Simulacrum in here and then click traverse, and then you go into the Simulacrum zone. It's, you know, it's a very, like, it's a very cramped area. It's around, you know, I'd say the same size as a kind of a hideout, really. It's not very big, and that's why my friend asked me to help him out, because my build is really, really useful in confined spaces, and it's got a lot of clear. So I've been doing a lot of them with him. He's got all the all 8 points, and we've been doing them together. And the points that you can get from this, each one of these small nodes does +1 to the Simulacrum difficulty. So you'll do one Simulacrum and you get 2 points, and you know, any way you put them, you have to put them, you have to go through a +1 difficulty node, and then the second time you do it, you get another +1, and you can do that 4 times basically. So once you've done 4 Simulacrums, you're going to have all the points in here. And the first one I think that we took was this 50% increased reward progress from killing monsters, because it just makes the timer or the reward go up faster. Fog dissipates 50% faster, which is a bit of a downside, but it's kind of offset by this one. Delirium Fog in your maps dissipates 30% slower. This is also a very, very useful one. This one, we tried it out. It was terrible. I mean, it's, yeah, 50% increased maximum life, but Delirium bosses in your maps drop 50% increased Simulacrum splinters. They only drop like 2 anyway. So we were dropping 3, and we tried it out a little bit, and it was just not for us. We eventually, I think we had a little blast on this one as well. Delirium encounters in your maps have 30% chance to generate an additional reward type, which was very useful, but the 30% increased damage is constant, and the 30% chance to generate an additional reward type is not, and so that can be, it wasn't great, but it was pretty good. Delirium encounters in your maps are 25% more likely to spawn a unique boss. Slaying rare monsters in your maps pause the Delirium timer, mirror timer for 4 seconds. This was really good for us because 25% more unique bosses in the maps, it's just more loot. And even though it's quite rare to get a boss, I've got some footage of a boss I'll put after we go through these skills. It's this last line, slaying rare monsters in your map pauses the mirror timer for 4 seconds. It's not really that good. It does apply to the Delirium monsters that are rare. It does apply to the regular rare monsters that you find in your map. Delirium Fog in your maps spawns 50% increase fracturing mirrors. Now this is very useful, we found, because it's, you know, all those little mirrors that you see around, as you saw at the beginning, there's just loads more of those, and that means more monsters, and that means more loot. This one, 20% chance to have random instilled emotions applied to the waystones. This is great just for adding a bunch of juice to maps for free, essentially. This was really, really useful for us. And then Delirium Fog in your maps has doubled difficulty scaling with distance from the mirror. and 100% increased stack size of Simulacrum Splinters found from non-unique monsters in your maps. Now this one weirdly was a lot better than this one, because we would usually walk out of a map with 3 to 5 Simulacrum Splinters, and this made it 6 to 10 instead. Because you're not getting the bosses that much. So this was honestly one of the better nodes, but double difficulty scaling is a hell of a downside. My friend is like kind of an aura bot, so we were a little bit overpowered for the maps we were running anyway. So it was it was fine for us. But double difficulty scaling, as we saw with the Delirium monster damage scaling and the less damage scaling, it could be quite a lot. This monster rarity, I should mention, as far as we know, it's probably some version of it is applied to monsters in maps, so you're dropping more loot from monsters in maps. And again, we don't know yet. Anyway, so this one, pretty good, but quite difficult. I would say the mirrors is really, really good. It's not real is also very good. If you take it with You Just Can't Wake Up from this one. And then I think this one was alright, but I would honestly take this one instead, because you just get more rares. But I think for me, get out of my head, the mirrors, it's not real, and then You Just Can't Wake Up from this one. These are the points I will be taking, and again, it's up to you. Anyway, I got a little bit of footage of fighting Omniphobia. I think I incorrectly say there's another boss. I don't think I've actually ever found Kosis, who's the other Path of Exile 1 Delirium boss, but Omniphobia is definitely in the game. So let's have a look at that. Alright, and here we have a boss. You can see Omniphobia, Fear Manifest. He's just popped up in my map. He's around here somewhere. I'm sure I'll find him if I move around a little bit. And he's fairly tanky guy, so as I move around, I can actually, he only pops up here, so I'm assuming he's probably, if we look at the map here, he's probably in this area here. So I'm just going to go around the side here and try and find him, and you'll notice him on the map because he's a fairly big guy. And there you see that little explosion, that's him, and here he is. And my build is fairly decent at these kind of very tight corridor kind of maps, because Spark just bounces around everywhere. But this is what the boss looks like. There's Omniphobia, and there's another boss as well. But this is what they look like. Alright, and we should also talk about why bother doing the Simulacrum at all. It's quite an enclosed area, like I said before. And if you've got a build like Spark, then it's very easy to clear. It can be quite difficult though, it can be quite rippy. You can get up to, I think it's 140% deliriousness that we got to when we were running it. And there's some really good rewards though. So there's some really good ones and some less good ones. So there's 6 uniques. You always get a unique at the end of, we always got a unique at the end of our Sims. And some of them are very good and some of them are very bad. So the best one by far is this Melting Maelstrom unique ultimate mana flask, and this is currently at least 29 divines on trade, and that's because of there's a couple of lines that are really important. Deals 25% of current mana as chaos damage to you when effect ends, so if you're CI then this doesn't affect you at all, and recover all mana when used. And so obviously that's super useful for CI builds, especially mana stacking CI builds, so that's why this is so expensive. So dropping this is really, really good. Perfidy, which is this knight armor, this is going for around 1 exalt. So if you ever get a Perfidy, if you do the Simulacrum you get a Perfidy, then I would recommend you chuck a couple of Artificer's Orbs on this, so you get the 2 sockets, and then Varl it, because you have these rolls here. Chance to avoid physical damage from hits and avoid chaos damage from hits, and if you this goes between 10 and 40%, and if you Varl something, a unique item, then you can get plus minus 20% on most of the rolls. Most of the ones that have ranges, you should be able to get 20% on those. So that means the 40% can go up to 45%. It can go lower, but if it's a perfect roll, say it's 40%, don't Varl it, because when you Varl something, it re-rolls the values and then corrupts it and then applies the corruption effect. And one of those corruption effects, one of those corruption outcomes can be to get that value and multiply it by 1.2. I think it's 1.23. More testing is required from the prohibited library. But so as you can see here, this one, 45% chance to avoid physical damage from hits at 4 divine orbs. So if you do find a perfidy, chuck a couple of artificer's orbs, Violet, or unless you've got really good rolls on either of these two things, but that's what I would do with that. Asylum, this is helmet. It doesn't really do much. It's got, you know, a lot of crit hit chance, but it's got this skills have 180% longer perfect timing window, and this is another 1 Exalt unique, and this 137% longer perfect timing window. This is the thing that matters. So perfect timing is something for some skills to get you know, much more impactful bonuses from skills, and 180% longer perfect timing window seems to be going for, you know, in between 10 to 5. I mean, it's going to be at least 1 divine if you get a very good outcome on this. So again, another thing to chuck an Artificer's Orb and Val. Megalomaniac, now this can be insanely good and it can be insanely bad. So Megalomaniac is, I think these are all, apart from the Mana Flask, these are all handovers from Path of Exile 1. And Megalomaniac basically allocates 2 notables from the tree. You don't know which ones though, and it's corrupted, so you can't change it. So it allocates 2 notables from the tree, and they could be good, and could be really bad. And that's what you get. So some of these are going to be 1 Exalt, and then, you know, some of them are going to be some very silly prices here. But if you find a really good combo, something that's synergistic, so this is Energize and Prolonged Assault, and those are probably maybe very good together. But if you find a Megalomaniac, then check out what the 2 notables do, and then try and figure out what the price is. So most of only this one is going for 1 Exalt, so this is around 1 divine. These can be really good, because if you find 2 notables that are really useful to you, because notables are very impactful in Path of Exile 2, then if you find 2 notables that are really useful for you, just keep it. But if you find something that's really good for a very meta build, especially like Spark, then it's going to cost, you know, you're going to be able to sell it for a lot. There's this Collapsing Horizon Worm Quarterstaff. Now, it doesn't do much damage, does a lot of crit though, but again, this is around a 1 divine item. It's not super good, but there's a few stats on it that could be quite useful, like if you corrupt it, then you can get more than 100% increased elemental damage with attacks. There's lots of crit available on it, and there's +4 to all elemental skills. And then the last one is Struggle Scream, which is this Stellar Amulet, and that's going to have 2 additional Instilled modifiers. So that makes a total of 3, and that means you can have 3 notables on your amulet. It also gives you +5 to all attributes as well. But this means that you can have 3 passives from anywhere on the tree instilled on your amulet, and that's obviously quite useful. So these are the main rewards from Simulacrum. Obviously it drops loot as well. It drops a bunch of the emotions too. We got, you know, lots of currency from our runs as well. But that's it for this Delirium this Delirium review, this Delirium guide. That's the one. That's it for this Delirium guide. We're live every day on twitch.tv/LifeWithoutPants. So swing by and join us. Please ask me questions. The last video I made on Expedition, people seem to really like it. Most people seem to really like it. And people have come into the stream to ask things about Expedition because it wasn't made clear in the video. Please come and ask. The reason I actually made this is because somebody came into the stream and asked a lot about Delirium, and I explained it, and they're like, God, that would make a really good video guide. Please do that. So this is for you, Kevcas. And with that, I hope you are kind to everyone you meet. I love you all very much, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.